Good evening, Bird Brothers and Sisters. Welcome to another installment of Touchdown Talk. Wait a minute. No, it's actually a rewind. Well, for this case, I thought I'd hit the playback button. And, Joey and I have already done an episode of Touchdown Talk together. It was episode 13, and that was already 3 months ago. So, I mean, it's. Man, time. I tell you what, a lot has happened in over the course of 3 months, and you know, time flies when you're having fun in a sense. But yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming out for this presentation. Joey Shakes is back on the channel. His third appearance, actually. Dating back, I think. The first time had to have been 10 months ago or something. I didn't even go back that far in the channel, but man, it's been quite a journey so far, and having you on here for the third time, and we got quite a bit to catch up on without being too repetitive here, since everybody's still awaiting training camp. But Joey, how's your Tuesday have been so far?
Yeah, I've been really busy. I've been streaming every day this past week, but I've been other than outside life, I've been really busy with other things. So I do my stuff on here and been really busy. But I think the last time we actually talked was when we thought the Eagles may have been wanting to draft a quarterback, and I was kind of going out of my mind and going crazy. Almost put myself in a mental institution. So I'm glad that we're past that, and we haven't talked since then. So hey. Things change, things happen for a reason. So,
The fear of a quarterback factory with Matt Corral a part of the top 30 visits, and what did we had at least a 10-minute tangent on that in that episode of Touchdown Talk. Like, how he better not do it, man. Just focus on Jalen Hurts. You want to give him as best of an opportunity after the 2020 season and all that, and so I mean, man, where do we start here? I remember dating back to episode 13, and one of the biggest things going into that, what was Howie and the front office, what were they ultimately going to do at that point in addressing the amount of needs that the Eagles were in search of? And we brought up defensive line, we brought up cornerback. We were potentially hoping for another receiver to pair with Devontae Smith, and then I remember going through the top 30 visits, and we seeing guys like Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Kayvon Thibodeau, Chris Olave, and Jameson Williams. There was a lot of good names on there, and we get to draft day, and there's an overall nervousness from the beginning. Like, what are we expecting to see here in the first 32 picks? Because Howie has never really had the greatest of luck, and he trades. He makes the trade up. He goes to 13, and well, there was one of our top 30 visits right there, and Jordan Davis, and him now being a Philadelphia Eagle, providing a lot of excitement, for us, and witnessing what he could do on an NFL field with that defensive line, and the return of Fletcher Cox, and hopefully Javon Hargrave stays, stuff like that, and then I guess that's a good segue to the starting point here, Joey, and I guess we'll do a little bit of a review between the two of us, and analyzing some of our expectations from episode 13, and then going into the draft, and watching that first pick being selected, trading up for it. And I seen your reaction when we got Jordan Davis, but how does it feel going back to that now that he's a Philadelphia Eagle?
Oh, dude, I love it. I mean, the last time we streamed, my hot take was Devontae Wyatt or Jordan Davis will be in the Philadelphia Eagles uniform. Right. That's what I said, and I'm like, I know for a fact after that combine, the Eagles were drooling over the potential of Jordan Davis. I understand, like, when he got drafted, we moved up a couple spots in front of the Ravens, and we gave up like 3-4 picks. We gave up a good amount of picks. A lot of people weren't happy with that pick because Kyle Hamilton was on the board, but I mean, I know they're not afraid to use him the way they want to use him. As much as everyone's saying he's a run stuffer, he's not a 3-down defensive tackle. He was lazy last year again in the Alabama game. I mean, even when we drafted him, they kind of showed some clips of him being tired and not really showing. He was just gassed out for some games, and I feel like he's lost a lot more weight. I think the number one thing with Jordan Davis you have to look out for is maintaining his weight.
Right.
I think that's important. And Gannon is going to, Gannon says he's violent. I mean, he's going to pin his ears back and let him attack. And I'm not even necessarily looking at sacks. I'm kind of just looking for him to be disruptive, get in the backfield and help somebody else out in the defensive line next to Milton Williams, whoever else is going to be, Josh Sweat and, Derek Barnett will be on the edge or whatever at that point. So the Jordan Davis pick was great. I was fine with the amount of picks we traded for, and Howie Roseman, we all know he likes the trenches, and with Fletcher Cox being released, brought back, put on that, 13-14 fully guaranteed for the year, and most likely he's going to be out the door. You have your future defensive tackle waiting in the reins in that second lineup. So Jordan Davis, probably my top player. I'm really excited to watch because I'm a big defensive line guy. So I'm pumped.
Absolutely, and I remember at that point in time, everybody's holding their breath, and they're like, and some people are thinking, well, is this the year that the Eagles are, going to go for a safety? And Kyle Hamilton was still there, and I just remember the anticipation with that, but I'm thinking in the back of my mind, there's no way the Eagles are trading up to go get a safety. As you mentioned, Howie Roseman's a big advocate for making the defensive line, the trench is a priority. We have seen him do it with offensive linemen already, and Andre Dillard, I think, being a top 15 pick in his own right, and going up to sitting there getting him, and unfortunately he hasn't worked out to this point, but we'll see come training camp that he's bulked up, and maybe this is the last chance for Stoutland to try and cross train him at the guard position, because I think he bulked to about 340 or so. I don't remember the actual numbers off the top of my head, but I do remember that ever since Jordan Mailata took his position over at left tackle, that I think he took a little bit of an insult to that. He's trying to bulk up and maybe cross train, but we'll see. But the bigger thing after I watched the Jordan Davis selection, and the reaction between the front office and in the draft room with Jonathan Gannon at times jumping up and down with the rest of the players that were picked defensively, is that I'm realizing that, wow, this front office is doing quite a lot for a first year into a second year defensive coordinator, that I don't ever exactly remember them doing the same thing for a Jim Schwartz that has built a larger resume in the NFL in terms of head coaching at one point, I believe. Had some stints with the Miami Dolphins. He's been a defensive coordinator for how many years, and it's just crazy, like the amount of the amount of priority they're putting into this, and making sure that Jonathan Gannon has as many guys as possible to fit what he wants to do defensively. It was it's pretty crazy,
Yeah, I know. I mean, Gannon's probably it's going to make me nervous this year. I mean, thinking that he was going to get a head coaching job, and why he was going to get a head coaching job, I don't know why, but I was kind of wishing he was not going to be here, but when it comes down to the draft and the collaborative effort that has come down with Jonathan Gannon and Howie Roseman, I mean, ever since the Sirianni hire, I definitely believe 100% that Jeffrey Lurie kind of took a step back. I felt like there was not a lot of pushback these last two drafts. I think Howie had a lot of free reign to do whatever he wanted, and maybe he wasn't the problem this whole time. I mean, there was no way we could have said, is this GM that stupid? I mean, there's just no way he could be that dumb. And then hearing all the rumors of the pushback and Andy Weidel and Jeffrey Lurie kind of stepping back after the Sirianni hire, I was saying to myself, you know what, maybe, this guy had, now has the free reign to do what he wants. And I felt like even after the first night of the draft, when they had their press conference, it just felt like a different vibe in the room. Like Nick and Howie were very close. They looked very friendly. Like it didn't seem like they were so professional and so like unease and, very uncomfortable. Like it felt like it was a very smooth transition. The room just felt like a really good vibe. Like they really thought this out. And I feel like good things are to come, man. Like I'm not gonna say I trust Howie Roseman 100%. We got to see how this final 53 is going to pan out and who they're going to keep on this roster. But I think one more draft, and depending what we do with these picks, and obviously with the quarterback position, we don't know what's going to happen depending on where these 2 first rounders and that second is going to go. I think one more draft and how he pulls the trigger and really makes some good moves. I feel like down the board from free agency. From free agency to the draft this past year has been fantastic, and probably one of the most exciting offseason / training camp to preseason we're going to be watching. A lot of players to watch with good competition behind. So,
yeah, right. That dynamic was interesting at one point between Sirianni and Howie Roseman, and it almost felt as if Dougie P kind of shortchanged Howie on some of those ice cream cones at some point. I don't know. Like they always made it seem like they were just tolerating each other. It wasn't you didn't get the full feel of a collaborative effort necessarily, and we kind of felt that with Doug Peterson's demeanor that he wanted he did want a large sense of control, and always wanting to be the main component in terms of the offense and wanting to call the plays and everything. And then we just watched Sirianni over the course of this offseason only coaching his first ever NFL season as a head coach instead of a coordinating position. And he got humble, and it was like, well, you know what? I'm going to hand over the reins to Shane Steichen because I know he's just as capable as I am in being a play caller and taking the reins. And I'm going to focus on what matters most to me, and that's being a player's coach and making sure my guys are ready. Every week come Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night games. So. You gotta hand it to him. It takes a certain kind of mentality. It takes a certain kind of humbling to watch somebody go through that.
Yeah, and I think this year's going to be a little bit different, obviously, with some of the weapons that we did get, especially AJ Brown. But I think Sirianni definitely has the leash on Steichen. Like Steichen, when you get into a game, Steichen calls 5-6 plays there. He already knows what he's going to play, and then if things are not working the way they're supposed to work, Sirianni makes those adjustments for Shane. So I feel like I'm not saying hot seat for these coordinators this year, but when it comes to Shane Steichen, I did not like. I mean, number one, we didn't run the ball as soon as we did last season. It took a few weeks. It took a while to get this run game going, which I don't know why we weren't running in the beginning. And Miles Sanders is sitting there like, I don't know why I'm not getting the ball whatsoever. Secondly, it's your play design suffered using certain players. I think they focused more on getting Rager open than they did on, Devontae Smith being, treated like a number 3 receiver. There's a whole bunch of stuff that really didn't work out. We were bad in the red zone. I mean, we didn't do well. And I think part of it is a quarterback that got thrown into the fire in 2020, played 4 to 5 games and went into his first season. And this, you got to think of it, 2020, 2021 off seasons, most of those 2 years, I mean, at least a good year and a half of those 2 years were, it wasn't working with the team, obviously with the virus and everything going on. There wasn't a lot of, the players working out together, and there was no unity in these off seasons. I think with Jalen Hurts last year, like I said, I think Shane did an okay job, but you had some struggles, you had some bad play calling, and things need to be fixed. So hopefully with more weapons and obviously, you added more to your offensive line, you added more to your wide receiver core. So now hopefully, this offense, expand the playbook a little bit for Jalen Hurts, not just do RPOs and read options, expand it to play action, don't make your offense one dimensional. I want, teams are going to start to see last year that, Jalen Hurts can't read defenses, or he was honing in on one receiver and he was checking down way too late, or whatever. It just depends, man. It's this is a brand new year this year, and from what I've seen, from our quarterback, what I've seen from this offense, and the work ethic has been off the charts. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback work this hard as much as Jalen Hurts has. I just want his mentality to match his play, and I think it'll be a successful offense if this happens. So.
And I tell you what, speaking of weapons, it's a good segue to get into the next transaction as we're watching the draft. That the Eagles did really out of nowhere caught everybody off guard, but there was still that sense of wonder because of the speculation leading up to that point. And I remember I'm doing the draft coverage on my channel, and Philly Jim was over there, AK Eagles was over there. We're chilling and we're waiting, and it gets to us on the clock, and we see a trade happen. And we're waiting for the details and everything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm thinking, wait a minute. What if they're trading for AJ Brown? And I remember we're sitting there like, nah, Howie's not going to do that. And then there's the news, and I remember going back and watching you and 500's reaction, because the Philly Shakedown was doing the draft coverage as well. Everyone's just going absolutely nuts, and then the Eagles are like, all right, Howie and the Eagles are like, we're gonna take it one step further. We're gonna lock this man down for 4 years and have a true number one receiver. We don't care if we have Devontae Smith. We're gonna give our quarterback 2 number one receivers to work with. And I tell you what, man, that's still to this point in time, that's still arguably the biggest moment of that draft class, and he wasn't even a part of the draft class. I mean, it's already he's already a proven veteran receiver in this league, multiple 1,000-yard seasons, Pro Bowls to his name now. Granted, there was the concern at one point that he's already went through 2 scopes in the same knee. So, yeah, is there a bit of a health concern with him going forward? Sure, because of the type receiver that he is. But, man, this threw everybody completely off. And, and how he showed some sort of some sort of set there or backbone with making that kind of transaction. And your reaction was just as crazy as mine.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even I had to go up and get a drink or something, because I remember it wasn't on camera when it started to happen, and I came back and Philly's flipping out and everyone's saying AJ Brown's name. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm really confused right now. What is going on? So then come to find out, they gave up a first and a third. And it's just so funny because they gave up a first and a third. They gave up no day 2 picks. They gave up no picks from the Eagles Saints.
Exactly.
Trade.
Yeah.
I mean, a first and a third. They gave him a new contract. His cap number is still cheap this year because he's still on his rookie deal. And then on the first year of his new deal next year, he's only 8.3. He's only a little over $8 million on his new deal. I mean, then after that, after 2023, he's going to be in the $20 million cap hits, obviously. But your offense just got better. I mean, it just got better. Not only is it going to give Devontae Smith's going to get a lot of help. I mean, I can't wait to see what that kid does this year. But A.J. Brown, the physicality that he has on those 50-50 catches, as a possession receiver, but a guy that can get a lot of yak yards for you in open space. And with Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert, I mean, how are you going to defend these guys? I really don't know. Plus Jalen Hurts' legs being another threat on its own to spread the defense out a little bit with the receivers that you have. So I'm still shocked over it. I felt like those Matt Corral jerseys we were wearing at the draft, they gave us really good luck. So definitely going to wear them next year and every year until we have bad luck. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, so I mean, I had to look up the hard numbers again for AJ Brown's contract here, and his cap hit for this year is only about he's $5.6 million against the cap for this year, with his base salary being just under $1 million. That also carries over into 23, where he's just under 1.1 with a cap hit of $8.5 million, and then some of that big money is going to start to hit in 24, where we're going to to see 20.2 on the base and then 27.6 in the cap hit, to where the contract was done that there's a potential out in 2025, where if the Eagles end up having to, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because that wasn't the idea going into this. But,
right.
Like I said, there's a potential out in 25. He would be a dead cap of about 15.4 million. We're not trying to get there. Absolutely not. Because, going into this year, he's only 25 years old. And, arguably across the whole spectrum of the draft class of receivers that went, do you go with the proven guy or do you go with sheer potential?
He was 25 at the time. He was 25, so you literally took a guy that could have been drafted. I mean, that literally, you took a guy that literally could have been drafted. So, I mean, it's not like they traded for an old receiver that's a Pro Bowl or something like that. Like, they traded for a guy that's only a few years in the league. You know what I mean? Like, it was a perfect situation, because just think about it. Like, now on top of that, I know that, Howie Roseman said, like, I didn't make this trade because of me. Like, Jalen Hurts made this trade happen. And not knowing, because I made a video of, before all this happened, before this trade even went down, I made a video about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown working out, and people were pissed at me for making it. Like, oh, stop, it's not going to happen. But I said, look, I mean, all I kind of said in the video was like, oh, Jalen Hurts is working his butt off with A.J. Brown. It's great. That's awesome. And it's just not knowing that him and A.J. Brown did, they work every offseason. So not only do you get A.J. Brown just on your roster in general, but you get, they have a connection, and they've been, the chemistry should already be there, which is great, because when you get a new receiver from the draft, it might take a while, to build that chemistry back up. But we're ahead of the ball game right now when it comes to receiver, way ahead. So
yeah, I think, and I ultimately think the off the field chemistry, while they're still working, with it on the field, since, well, this is really one of the only times that that they've ever been on the same team together.
Right.
But I always felt that off the field chemistry was really the icing on the cake when it comes to the trade that the Eagles have done. Not just the sole fact that, they made this trade for their starting quarterback, but they also looked into that dynamic as well. And, sometimes something like that you can't put a price on. So really, you're getting the best of both worlds there, on top of the fact that both Jalen and AJ have the same mentality going into this. And you can throw Devontae Smith into that conversation. You can throw Dallas Goedert into that conversation. We have a number of individuals offensively that all share a similar purpose of just wanting to be winners. I don't feel that there's a means of selfishness between them, that they need X amount of receptions. They need the ball this many times, game in and game out. I mean, they're building a culture here that they're trying to play for each other instead of themselves. In other words, that, granted, we have players, that are in contract years to where there could be the potential for a lot of money on the table, but, like a guy like Jalen Hurts, I feel he's the type of kid that's going to put that to the side and let his play do the talking first, before he makes any kind of stink about it. Unlike somebody else in the NFC East, we know, to where he gambled early and lost late, but he still got paid at the end of the day because of who this owner is. And, I think we know who we're talking about to this point. Yeah. Jerry Jones. So I mean, Dak still got his money at the end of the day, but he kind of bet on himself at the wrong time and wanted to make it about that instead of letting his play do the talking first. And that's what I like about Jalen Hurts, and that kind of goes. I think that kind of goes underappreciated in a way, because everyone's so focused on how good they want him to be as a player, and they kind of brush it to the side and say, well, that, mentality and stuff like that, that doesn't matter. We want to see his improvement, from a developmental standpoint first before we add that back into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, even when we signed Zach Pascal, like when we first signed, I mean, look, we passed on a lot of receivers, like their receivers just getting signed left and right. And I was just like, dude, like DJ Chark went to the Lions for like $10 million. I was like, what's going on? Like, why aren't they, like, they're always interested and then like they just lose, like they lose out and they lose out and they lose out. So I was kind of figuring out to myself, like, when they signed Zach Pascal, I was like, oh no. I was like, don't even tell me this is like the veteran receiver that we wanted. Because it's total BS, man. Like 1.1 million for the year. It's Nick Sirianni's pet. I mean, he averaged very well for Nick, being an offensive coordinator. And Zach Pascal's first year with Nick Sirianni, he was like a number 4 wide receiver. Then because of injuries, he moved up the next 2 years and really took those bigger roles in the wide receiver room and played really well. But since adding the pieces that we did, like adding an AJ Brown, now it makes more sense. Now you have another big body receiver that could play inside, outside. And, I think between Quez and Zach Pascal, because the news has been coming out that maybe Zach Pascal will get more snaps than Quez Watkins. But I think it's going to be situational between red zone, where they are on the field. And you could use Zach Pascal for a lot of different things. And he's quick. Like, don't put it down on Pascal. Like, Pascal's good.
No.
Like, he reminds me of Zach Ertz kind of with the break of his route. Like, he's very quick, break of his route, uses his body, uses his frame, pinpoints the ball very well. I mean, he's great. I think he's going to be, with the group that we have now, it's looking really good. So.
And the easiest case that I've made in terms of Zach Pascal, and one of the biggest reasons that he is on this team, aside from being a pet of Sirianni, if you want to put it that way, is he's Arcega-Whiteside's replacement. Let's keep it all the way 100 about that. That's what we were expecting Arcega-Whiteside to develop into, and unfortunately, to whether it's his own doing or incompetence through previous coaching staffs, even though Aaron Moorhead is still here as a wide receivers coach, not trying to build an excuse in there, because it's a collaborative effort between coaches and player. But I think that was the biggest reason as to why Zach Pascal is a Philadelphia Eagle, and adding that kind of necessary depth to replace somebody that's already gone through a position change, because he didn't work where he played coming out of college.
Yeah, and I think you look at the whole entire group right now, and you know what? There's a lot of pushback players. I mean, you look at AJ Brown, like he's becoming the embodiment of Philly. I mean, he's protecting his players. Anyone says anything about them, he like goes on Twitter and he goes crazy. Like, at the Devontae Smith softball game with Micah Parsons, all the comments with that. I mean, like, I like his attitude, and I think he fits here very well and keeps himself accountable. He's going to keep himself accountable and hold everybody else accountable as well. So when you get those moments last year when Devontae Smith goes up to Jalen Hurts and saying like, hey, I'm open, or going up to Nick Sirianni and say, give me the ball right now, and they don't, it's a problem. Like, you want players that do that. It's not being selfish. It's like, if your offense is just no gas, totally a standstill, not getting any yards, and like there's nothing going, you got that player, you have a couple players now that are going to say, let's make this happen right now. And I think between having that chemistry, and all the offseason work that they've done, because I've never seen this much offseason work between quarterback and wide receivers and tight ends in my life. It's been like pretty hardcore what they've been doing all year long this year. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it right there. We don't think it's a means of selfishness, but it's more of an approach of Devontae Smith having that kind of intelligence to understand that something's not exactly right here, and he's almost approaching it like a means of common sense that I notice something is wrong. Does anybody else understand that something's wrong here and we need to make a change? Whether it's on the quarterback not seeing something, or Sirianni in collaboration with Shane Steichen, that the two of them aren't putting the best plays forward and developing the necessary game plan to show a little bit more success than what they're putting on the field. And that was very apparent against a lot of more veteran teams that they faced, especially Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as much as we wanted to trash Hurts for how bad he played in really both matchups, at the same time, you're going against, arguably one of the best defensive coordinators in the league in Todd Bowles, who is now the head coach over there. And, the amount of weapons that he had defensively to really take advantage of a young quarterback that is coming off of a year in 2020 where he only started X amount of games just because of, out of spite of the implosion of the previous quarterback who was here. And it at the end of the day, a lot of it ended up being a recipe for disaster because it has stunted a lot of developmental growth at times. But, you got to give this team credit at the same time. Their over and under last year was 6.5. They were a 9-win team. And, you can cut it down the middle all you want. Jalen Hurts was still an above 500 quarterback, but at the end of the day, it's still not saying much.
The playoff game that we had left a really bad taste in my mouth. At least it wasn't a close game where we lost. That game was over in 10 minutes. That game was that game was over in 10 minutes, really, because, Miles Sanders was almost out for 3 weeks and they gave him all the reps. Why? I don't know. You've been winning in this run game between Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, Kenneth Gainwell. Even Jordan Howard's got to stop with these injuries where he gets injured. He has these neck stinger injuries and he's out for weeks. Okay. Right. You have Levante David, Devin White, literally just standing, waiting for the exchange. I mean, they were literally waiting for the exchange. And not even that, but you don't pass Devontae Smith till the third quarter. I don't get what they're doing. That really pissed me off. Just at the end of the season like that, I was just like, is that all they got? Did they give up? Did the coaches just say, we're just going to run whatever we want? Oh, or as soon as they start reading Jalen Hurts on knowing that he can't make his reads and he can't throw the ball. We're just going to blitz him every time. We're just going to pressure him because there's nothing he could do. He hesitates way too much. And I think, part of it is Jalen Hurts and part of it was definitely Shane Steichen. The play design, play calling was horrible. Then the muff punt by Rager just totally put a cherry on top. Not surprised. The defense doing nothing but being cautious. I hate this cautious, passive defense. What is the point?
The cherry on a what kind of Sunday?
Yeah,
the wrong kind of Sunday. That's what it was.
So I'm like, is this the best we could do right now? We were promised so much before the season started about defensively, about disguising coverages and, and being aggressive and all this crap. And Nick Sirianni being like, oh, we have intermediate wide receivers, getting everybody open, guys moving around. I didn't see any of that last year. I mean, yeah, maybe you threw the ball to some running backs. Maybe, you put some of the guys in the passing game. I don't know. I mean, it was a total disaster. And, I wasn't so mad over that loss because I kind of went into it knowing I don't think they're going to win, but I want them to win. But at the same time, I didn't think the play calling was going to be that bad. And obviously Jalen Hurts missed Quez Watkins 3 times, wide open. I mean, Quez Watkins with only 2 drops for the year last year. And he was amazing. I mean, you got to keep playing him. But hopefully a big turnaround this year, man. Howie Roseman said, well, I gave you your defense. Told Jonathan Gannon, I gave you your defense with all these new pieces now, because really theoretically, I thought free agency was going to be more offense and we were going to get more just a defensive draft, but it was almost a total opposite of what we were getting. And yeah, I mean, I think another year for Jonathan Gannon is, for this year is, I'm not happy about it. I'm going to give him a chance. And if there's certain things I'm kind of looking at with this defense this year. If I don't see Hassan Reddick with over 10 sacks this year, it's a failed season for him, because 23.5 sacks for 2 seasons and you can't get him over 10 sacks. I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, I don't mind putting him at Sam linebacker, moving him back and forth to defensive end, but I'm putting this man next to Javon Hargrave. Hargrave needs help. Okay. Hargrave could take on the double teams, but Fletcher Cox obviously is another one I'm looking at too, because once I already know he's not going to be here after this year, but I've been on him the past 2 years. And there's a lot of Fletcher Cox lovers out there that get their feelings hurt that when I talk about him, I'm not saying look, if I critique a player, it means I know he could play better. I'm not trashing a player because I want to trash him. I know he can play better. So, you know what I mean? So it's really all on how they produce these players. Like Howie Roseman could, we look good on paper right now. The Giants look good on paper last year, but with a free agency frenzy and sometimes spending all this money don't mean a damn thing. If you don't have the coaching staff for it, it can go south real quick. So.
Well, unfortunately, to Jay's point here, Gannon's not disappearing anytime soon unless it's a total flop. The season that we're entering. So, we got another year of Jonathan Gannon. It's not like we can dump him at the trade deadline. It doesn't work that way. But to get back into the draft, and I'm not gonna go into complete detail on this. We're just gonna touch on the rest of the players here, we seen the selection from a blessing by our Lord and Center Jason Kelce and selecting Cam Jurgens, and this is the guy that Kelce felt that was better than other selections in Tyler Linderbaum and Creed Humphrey from a previous class and whatnot, and this is the guy that he ultimately wants as his replacement. So at this point, it's yet to be determined because, training camp's not here yet. We've seen a little bit of stuff going on in rookie OTAs, but, I do like the approach that the Eagles have went in trying to mirror the kind of success that Kelce has given them for quite a long time now, when there was Eagles fans a while ago that wanted to give up on Kelce because he had a string of inconsistencies, and then we see them select Isaac Seumalo, who was quite versatile between center, guard, and a tackle position, but Kelce's still here, and he's still arguably the best center in football. It's just an awesome story, and he fully deserved to be as involved as he was with the selection of Jurgens. And to this point, all we can do is hope for the best in his development, because as far as I'm concerned, right now it's just Kelce and Jurgens at center. You don't got anybody else behind him. You're not going to be in a position to want to move Landon Dickerson with those two towers on the left side. You're not going to want to move Seumalo, who is already committed to going to the right guard spot to keep Landon over there. So right now it's almost as if Jurgens has to work unless you go in a different direction in next year's draft and select some depth behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even you get Cam Jurgens in the second round, which wasn't the sexy pick that everybody wanted, because
much like Milton Williams, yeah,
right, and it's like those picks are sneaky picks. Landon Dickerson last year was a sneaky pick, but he had very high ceiling, best center in football, but had two ACLs, or had the two knee injuries, two ankle injuries, and we're finding out about all this stuff as the draft is going on last year. We're like, damn, if this guy works out, then yeah, to me that draft was like an A- to me, because of that was a late first round player that that the Eagles got, and some people thought they got him way too early. They could have got him a little bit later on, but Dickerson went in for Brandon Brooks, I think, for that 49ers game after he ended up getting hurt, and then he didn't play well.
The Achilles again.
Yeah. Which was horrible. And then they put him to the left side next to Mulata, and it was just like, yeah, we got to keep him there. We definitely got to keep him there. So, I don't think this Jurgens thing is going to be I think they want to try to give him playing time this year. For me, what I think about the right guard spot, I think they want to give it to Seumalo, but they want to put, obviously Driscoll, Seumalo, maybe Jurgens, maybe a 3-man type competition for that right guard spot, even though Jurgens is going to be playing center. And I wouldn't mind putting him at right guard. Why not?
Right. They're still going to cross-train him, yes.
Of course, you always want to put him there. So, and obviously, we get some work next to Kelce just in case. So, why not? But I think Driscoll is solid. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's bad. I think he's just solid. I think he is a better. And look, and if Seumalo, I think it's a win-win, even if Driscoll loses the job, because now if Seumalo does start, Driscoll could play right guard, right tackle, so you have a swing at both positions in case Lane Johnson has another ankle injury or, God forbid, anything happens. He's getting older now, so Driscoll could be your next right tackle because remember, even when Driscoll went into that Washington game in his rookie year, he played pretty damn well, and for a few games he did. Then they took him out, and Lane Johnson went back in. But I don't know if he's going to be the future right tackle, but I think he's a solid starter / backup swing guy. And so I think offensive line wise, like other than left tackle, if they after this year Dillard's going to be gone, and I don't trust LaRaven Clark because he's just been injured nonstop. I don't think I trust him that much. There's really nothing much else there, but I think a top 3 offensive line this year, I think could be the best offensive line this year. And because a lot of teams have, you look at Kansas City in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and you look at it and you're like, okay, and they lose an offensive lineman and they totally just fall apart. We've had 22 years ago, we made 20 switches at offensive line, 20 in 1 year. And it's like
13 to 14 lineups in 16 games. And Jason Kelce was the last man standing.
Yeah.
But that's just a testament to how damn good Kelce is, man. To hold that together in the midst of injuries, and then Jamon Brown being a total F up. Let's not go back there. Please.
Was that the guy tackled? Is that the guy that tackled his own? Who's Jamon Brown's the guy?
He was the guy that sacked his own quarterback and was in the middle of the play fixing his sleeve.
Yeah. Dude, I laughed.
Not again.
I literally did a video on reacting to that. And I laughed my ass off because I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Like, I swear to God, it was like a big, like something on like Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Live,
right?
Something like that. So I feel like I think it's good. The depth is good, and most teams don't have that depth. Like they care about the trenches. I'm glad that this is a team that definitely cares about the trenches. Shout out to Desert Eagle, by the way. What's going on, man? He's getting over the virus right now. So shout out to him. Shout out to him.
Keep them fluids up, DE. Yeah, I've had it twice already. My first time, I lost my taste and smell for a few months. It was horrible, but the second time I got over it a lot quicker. So, I mean, yeah, it's terrible, but yeah, no.
Suri.
Yeah, but I mean, God. Jamon Brown completely threw me off now. Okay, I remember now, and you brought up you brought up Jack Driscoll, and I think he's another product of a player that we're hoping to see more promise out of, and injuries unfortunately just keep him off the field, because I think in that Washington game he suffered a concussion, and he had to get over that, and then it was either a concussion or he also had a nagging ankle injury, the way that Miles has been dealing with for the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's just quite unfortunate, because Jack is one of Stoutland's favorite players on that offensive line. Like, that's one of his favorite projects right now. And unfortunately, it's another case where injuries keeping him off the field. So, in terms of health for these players, knock on wood that, for as well as we did last year in avoiding that kind of bug, that it falls into 2022 as well.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about like the switches, like the offense, that Jeff Stoutland has to make throughout the year, it's really you have to clap your hands for him, because like he makes these switches, and like sometimes it's still successful. Like we could still get it done, and it's a testament to him and what he does with these players. And it's going to be hard when if there's a time when he leaves, I would try to give him a monster contract and try to extend him, because I think he's the best offensive line coach in football, and could turn if he sees talent, he knows that there's talent in a player, he's not going to waste his time on a player that knows if it's going to be a success or a failure. So I like what he's doing, and this offensive line it's going to make a huge difference for years to come, and it's getting younger, and Kelce and Lane Johnson are like the only two that are left. And I think by next year, maybe a couple years, we could have a fresh offensive line with two more young talents. So I'm excited for this offensive line going forward. Definitely.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like Kelce and Lane are old either. If we saw Jason Peters at 38 years old still giving an effort out there.
He sucks.
No.
He's freaking horrible. Don't ever say his name. Love you, JP, but
right.
He
the
sucks.
Bodyguard. Well, he was.
Yeah, the bodyguard of a nursing home, not the bodyguard of
right.
Right.
But no,
a bank.
I mean, talking about Stoutland, and it was even a bigger necessity with trying to maintain stability on the offensive line, with him having the involvement as the run game coordinator as well. So there was an extra responsibility there. But yeah, I mean, the value of our offensive line coach, I think, is second to none. The value of our center, our right tackle, what Jordan Mailata has become to this point. Landon Dickerson, who we all thought was going to be redshirted at one point, he ends up starting games, and him and Mailata are inseparable to this point now. And then to touch on the rest of the draft results, the big steal, and arguably you could say that, aside from the AJ Brown trade, in watching them get the, arguably the biggest steal in Nakobe Dean in the third round, and you pair him with his teammate on that championship team, between Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis. Now they're on the same football team. They have the same goals. They have the same objective. And I got to tell you what, I mean, there really isn't any kind of huge name in this linebacking core right now. But to witness the turnaround that they went through in just a year's time is unbelievable. It really is. And it's a mouthful to say at the same time. I get it, because we haven't seen Nakobe Dean on the field yet, let alone take a single snap of preseason or training camp or anything. And, you can say what you want as the reasoning that he fell as far as he did in that class, but right now it doesn't matter, because, well, the Eagles selected him for a reason. They thought that, everything along his health condition was, a little bit overblown, but that doesn't matter it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because he's as much a Philadelphia Eagle as Jordan Davis is, and those two are going to be able to play together once again.
Lindy, they made Nakobe Dean during the draft sound like he was like a paraplegic, like he was in a freaking wheelchair.
I know.
Like, whoever spread those rumors, shout out to you. Cheers.
Right.
Because if this was how, I don't know, because like during the draft, like I'm sitting there like, oh, he's got leg issues, like something's wrong with his ankle. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, what did he get? Did he get hit by a bus?
He was supposed to get shoulder surgery or something, and he opted not to take it, and yada yada. And then turns out he didn't need the surgery. He's in better health than people were making it out to be. And I mean, well, it seemed to have worked in our favor.
Yeah. And
so,
then Howie's like, oh, he'll be ready
now.
Yeah, Howie was like, oh, yeah, he'll be ready for rookie minicamp. I'm like, oh, I guess there's really nothing wrong with him. And then Nakobe Dean in the interviews sounded like he was, like, pissed. Like, internally, I know he's like, he lost money. I mean, hey, it's another chip on his shoulder. I think that's going to put a bigger chip on his shoulder being drafted in the third round, and a lot of teams passed on him, or these rumors came out about him. And look, a lot of people are even saying when I was streaming this morning, a lot of people were saying, oh, Nakobe Dean, he probably won't even start. I mean, who knows? I mean, I need to see this transition through training camp, scrimmages, and through preseason, from not just him, but from a lot of these guys. But that linebacker room is just, it's loaded now. I mean, I think we kind of found out like they were going to make changes to linebacker. The beginning of this whole thing was when Alex Singleton got released. And I was like, whoa. I was like, they're definitely, what are they doing? Like, they're definitely trying to, and like Kaizer White came into the picture, like, and to find out that Kaizer White, like the Eagles had him on his radar since the first day of free agency, but they didn't think they were actually going to get him. Okay.
And I'll tell you what, there's people in the Denver media telling fans that don't be surprised if Alex Singleton doesn't start for the Broncos week 1.
I can't even blame that, to be honest. Like, like he's had good games, he's had really bad games. His tackling sometimes when he's on, he's on. When he's off the whole game.
Right.
I mean, that's just how it's been. But now you just have, oh man, the room. I mean, even Davion Taylor, like, they kept 7 linebackers. Remember, they were like, oh, they kept 2 running backs and 7. Why are they keeping 7 linebackers? Like, holy crap! And we're sitting
most
there.
Teams keep 6 to 7 anyway. So why is that big? Why is it that big of a deal?
Well, I'm just saying, just because we kept like a minimal size of running backs. Like, why don't they, keep like 3 running backs or whatever? But I don't know. I mean, I think they want to find the right combination. I think maybe that was part of it. And there was a lot of unknown with that position, so they wanted to keep as many bodies as possible. Because even having what we have now, plus Sean Bradley, that's probably not going to get playing time, but guy's good on special teams and is serviceable as a starter if you really need him to come in for a game or a couple of plays or whatever. But it's a night and day linebacker group that now you can, TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor were like the first combination. We're like, oh man, this is working out really well. We always knew that TJ Edwards actually had a lot of flash. Jim Schwartz just too much favoritism with Jim Schwartz, just never used young players. He loved Derek Barnett. He loved Nate Gary. He loved all these freaking idiots.
Had to bring him up. And I was going to say, at least Alex Singleton wasn't to the level of Nate Gary, but yeah, you beat me to the punch and brought his name up anyway.
Oh no, I mean, no, definitely. I mean, God. And I thought Davion Taylor was playing really well with TJ Edwards, and then he ended up getting hurt.
Right,
and the bye week came, and then he couldn't play the rest of the year, which was a big loss. So I think he's got a chip on his shoulder coming in. So it got a very good, healthy competition at linebacker this year. So it's going to be fun to watch, no doubt.
I mean, not even just from a competitive standpoint, but an overall depth standpoint. I mean, we're just bringing up Nakobe Dean right now because it's just a mini review of our draft since, episode 13 of Touchdown Talk was 3 months ago, and that was prior to the draft. So we're reminiscing on good times right now, and as unhealthy as that sounds, because the team hasn't even made it to training camp yet.
I know
we're trying to bask in that glory for a little bit, but staying on the linebackers, and Nakobe Dean's not just the only addition. Hassan Reddick, I think, came out of nowhere as well, as much as A.J. Brown did. And you have to imagine, for as big of a chip Nakobe is going to have on his shoulder with the amount of money that he lost, and talking about it, Hassan's coming back home. And he has known the link for quite some time through Temple and everything. So, I mean, you have to imagine the fire that's burning in him to want to play for a hometown crowd. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So you include him in the mix. Kaizer White comes over, from the Chargers, who for whatever reason didn't pick him up again off his rookie deal. This kid's only 26 years old. He's going to be 27. And again, that's added experience alongside youth.
Yes.
In a position group that has been suffering for how many years now that not enough attention was given to him. Yes. So now you're looking at a first string core of potentially, Kaizer at the wheel. You're going to have TJ at the mic, and then at your Sam, you're going to have Hassan Reddick. So you're going to have a mix of explosiveness, you're going to have a mix of power and speed on the field at the same time, if that's the package that you're going to go with first. I mean, I don't know how much more excitement you can get out of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even when getting Hassan Reddick, Hassan Reddick was a lucky signing. I mean, he could have signed somewhere else for a lot more money. I guarantee you that was probably it was a lucky signing that we got. He wanted to come home. He wanted to play here. I mean, a lot of players want to come and play here. Kaizer White, his favorite team growing up, wants to play here. You know what I mean? So I felt like even with Kaizer White, I heard through the grapevine that the Chargers, apparently, I don't know, he didn't try. I heard half of it was they tried to get him back, and then half of it was he didn't fit the system this year with the revamped defense that they built this year, and all that good stuff. But it's going to be like you said, you have a mixture of size, speed, guys that have some coverage ability as well, and leadership. And we need leadership in this defense. Ever since Malcolm Jenkins left, we kind of lost that glue. We kind of lost that player that kind of glued this team together. And hopefully we find another voice in this room at any position, whatever it's going to be. So.
Right. I'm trying to work through a little bit of a hitch here because I closed out a window on my laptop, but no, man, there's yeah, like I said, there's a ton of excitement to look at the linebacking position, and even the second string is not too far off. If it's the case that Davion Taylor has to be pushed back there, and then you're looking at guys like Sean Bradley and Patrick Johnson, who unfortunately I think Patrick Johnson may be a cut casualty to where the next selection in Kyron and Kyron Johnson might end up taking his place. And then you look at that selection. Grant Calcaterra gets added to the tight end room. Moves like that. So overall, when the draft finished for me, I took it as a quality over quantity at the end of the day. Yeah, we only made 5 selections, but we addressed as many positions as possible, although they still had a lot of angry Eagles fans at the end of the day. Oh, where's your corner? Where's your safety?
Typical. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, how many times we have day 3 picks, like 4 6-rounders? Like, what am I going to do with this? Like, come on. What? Like, I'm tired of, you use those picks to move up in drafts. Like, I'm tired of having day 3 picks. But Howie Roseman was aggressive. He never was aggressive. He was aggressive these past 2 seasons. He made trades that didn't hurt us from other trades that he made. You can't even complain about it, dude. Like, it's right. Like, when Howie Roseman's not aggressive, people are going to bitch about it. Then when he's too aggressive, it's like, we gave up too much. It's like, and then I even heard from people, we paid A.J. Brown way too much money. No shit. We gotta pay a receiver marquee. 25 plus is that's the price that you pay for these receivers now. Like, I don't, some of these, I mean, look, I'm not like the smartest guy in the room. Like, I'm not like, I don't know everything about everything, but at least I have some common sense when it comes to like what you're gonna have to pay for like a marquee name player. And luckily, we didn't give up much for A.J. Brown, thank God. Right. And even if you moved up a couple spots for Jordan Davis, like, I'm tired of the Baltimore Ravens going after good players because they had probably a really good draft. They had a lot of good players in that draft. Giants, Ravens, and Eagles probably, and Jets. I think all 4 of those teams had a really good draft.
And that was part of the biggest reason that we traded up for Jordan Davis is the fear that the Ravens were going to take him too.
And if you know that the Ravens are going to take a player like that, and it's going to happen, he's going to be
how
good.
Much they love their defense, Joey. Yeah.
Yes, that they, especially defensive line. Forget it. They've always known how to pick defensive tackles, defensive ends. Like getting Ojabo might not play this year, but damn sure he's going to play really well for them in the future. No doubt about it. Then we signed Derek Barnett. So,
it's always him.
It's always him.
Always
quote,
him.
Unquote. It's always him. Look, it is what it is, dude. It is what it is. Like, if they pick him up and it's totally fine. Like, it's one of the worst moves they made. But I think when it comes to, and even Brandon Graham talked about, like, Barnett knows that he's not good with the fans right now. He knows he has to play well. When you have 8 penalties, 2 sacks last year, you're leading all defensive ends and penalties. It's not right. You're hurting the team more than you're helping the team on the field, and you're doing unnecessary shit that you shouldn't be doing. When you're not even 15 yards within the play and you're doing stupid crap. That's when you start to when they sign him to a 2-year deal, which I think they can get out of that deal with Derek Barnett after this year, because you have to look at it this way. Yeah. If Barnett is gone after this year, Brandon Graham could be gone too. I don't think they re-sign Brandon Graham. I think they go into that draft next year if our quarterback plays well and we have these 2 first-round picks intact to get the best defensive end in the draft next year. That's my hot take. Hot take. Another hot take that I might be right on. So keep this recorded.
Yeah, and I remember, BG having a press conference in which when some of the writers asked him about Derek Barnett, and I remember him saying that DB has some unfinished business with the city, and he understands that there's a lot of backlash from the fan base, and he knows that he has to play better, and according to Graham, that he's doing everything he possibly can and getting all the advice that he can, and he's working with his coach and everything, Tracy Rocker being here, and all of that. I mean, all of that sounds good on air and it sounds good on paper, but like you said from the jump, he just hasn't produced the value consistently of a first round talent. Especially the pedigree that he came from, that he brought here from Tennessee, and Reggie White's sack record being broken and all that, and how coincidental of a tie that is to this city. And well, where is that guy? I mean, how many years we've been asking? I don't know. Well, where is that guy?
I don't know, but maybe he's saying to himself, "Oh, that's maybe 8 penalties not enough. Maybe I need like 14 penalties this year." I don't know, but right. I don't know. Like, look, I wish him the best of luck this year. This might be a make or break year for him, but at the end of the day, like, I feel like if Graham does walk after this year, they will keep Barnett for another year, because they're not going to lose 2 defensive ends. Just like when I said they're not going to lose 2 defensive tackles after this year. I guarantee you Hargrave will get an extension middle of this year or the end of the year. Save $13 million. Yeah, it's they have to do it.
I gotta tell you, I was not comfortable. I was a part of a call in, and the previous caller before me, he made the prediction that there's a potential of both Cox and Hargrave walking, because he felt that it was a bit of a stunt of growth on some of the young guys further down the depth chart. Like, you want to see a Milton Williams get more snaps. You're trying to work Jordan Davis into this role of being a Fletcher Cox 2.0, and I think beside the want from Fletch to stay in Philly and play for the Eagles, I think that was an extra part of the reasoning to retain him, is because, well, if the team is trying to draft your replacement, much like the Jason Kelce situation. Yeah, $14 million is a lot of money, but I think Kelsey's making as much as Fletch is. So, if one guy is willing in that regard for, from a build up in a training perspective, then, it's like, well, he's okay doing this. Well, why can't you be? And I think that was the ultimate tie into the whole scenario. So, but again, Fletch can still contribute in this defense so long as Gannon does not drop him back into some stupid kind of coveraging and all that garbage.
But do you really blame Jonathan Gannon 100% on Fletcher Cox of his production this year?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't.
What I mean? Like, he's not going to coverage every play. Like, I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you right now, like, if Jordan Davis starts to play really well and Fletch is just totally not producing at all, I would move Fletch into that I would move him to that third spot in that second rotation and move Jordan Davis up. Like, if I even see him, no.
Yeah, I still ultimately thought personally that they're going to eventually wean Cox out of the rotation and want to give Jordan those snaps to see what he can and can't handle. Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Javon Hargrave has handled his role excellently. Ever since coming off of that bicep tear, in 2020, and everybody thinking that we paid too much for this guy, I think he more than made up for it. So, while you got him doing his thing, and like I said, I think they're still ultimately going to wean Cox out of that role. And Jordan, you didn't trade up to get Jordan Davis for no reason. You're going to want to put him on the field more than Fletch at this point. I mean, let's be realistic about that. So, but we're now. let's get into another
even
let's get into another position group at the same time.
One last thing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Even like in preseason, because I know like the veterans aren't playing. Like BG won't play, Cox won't play. They're going to sit those guys out the whole time. If I even see Jordan Davis against starters and he's just pummeling guys left and right, like I don't know. It's going to be tough for me to keep Fletch on that starting role and not be in that second rotation. I'm just saying. I don't know. We'll see though.
Yeah,
but that's all I want to say.
And I don't even think it's a big deal when you talk about that. Him as a nose tackle and the emphasis on how good he is in terms of a run stuffer. I mean, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world if you start him in that role, but progressively start to utilize him in terms of a pass rusher instead of primarily keeping him in a means of controlling the line of scrimmage, because we know darn well he is more than capable of doing that.
Yeah.
To where he's attracting triple teams in college.
But I'm just saying, like, do people think like because he can't line up, on the center, he's not going to know how to rush? Was he going to be confused lining up in a 3 technique? Like, give me a break.
Right.
The guy, he's human, guy.
Here we go.
Like, I'm sorry, but Eagle fans really piss me off sometimes.
Gadget number 2. Here we go.
Like, was he not going to know? He's just going to sit there and be like, I don't know how to, No, come on now.
And he's got plenty of depth around him. I mean, you got 2 Pro Bowl DTs surrounding him, and then you got a Milton Williams going into year 2, who we have a lot of promise in, and then behind him, for what it's worth, Marlon Tuipulotu, who lost a lot of time as a 6th round pick coming out of USC, and he was a favorite in that core. And it's unfortunate that he had to nurse a hamstring injury, but he was supposed to be a part of that unit that's very good in terms of run defense. And that's another guy that they wanted to boost his pass rushing skills, because there is some there, but you need time on the field. You need time on the field to show what you can and can't do, and deploy him in the right positions. And ultimately that's what's going to happen in the case of Jordan Davis. But the only difference is we're talking a 1st rounder to a 6th rounder, and you're not gonna waste your time in keeping the core the same as it was last year. Between Cox and Hargrave, like I said, he's gonna eventually be weaned out if Jordan plays to the high expectation that he's been given so far. And and it was even said that he came in overweight. I think he was like around 340. People, I think it's been said that they want him down to about 325, drop about 15 pounds, and add to his athleticism so he can just run dudes over at the line of scrimmage. Right. So, I mean, I'm sorry, that has to be a scary damn thought. I'm sorry. I mean, the kid's gonna be a rookie, and there's gonna be plenty of offensive linemen in this league that think he's going to be a pushover, and we're going to introduce him to the NFL. No, I'm sorry, they got another thing coming.
I saw that combine and I was like, "Yep, that's the guy. That's the guy." I don't give a shit.
Man,
that is the guy. I was like that. If the Eagles are just like, I'm like, come on now. Like, there's no way that there's not a lot of teams were paying attention to him. A lot of teams were. I'm like, you have, if you want to upgrade that spot. And I think because we said, you're not losing two defensive tackles this year, I think they still got to draft him regardless. And they did. So thank God.
Well, man, how do we already blow over an hour's worth of time into this?
No, you got go ahead. You're good.
Right. It's still going pretty damn well, man. Like I said, time flies when you're having fun, but everybody in the chat, make sure y'all do your due diligence, and if you do so happen to have no idea who Joey Shakes is, make sure to check out his channel and whatnot.
You'd be surprised.
Right, exactly. Provides a lot of content, especially if you become a part of his community. Get that membership going. Yeah, there's a lot of content that awaits you. So yeah, make sure you do your due diligence. But let us try and segue quick into another position here. And a lot has happened at the secondary spot. on a positive note here, and whether we want to take it from undrafted rookie free agents who show a decent amount of promise and they're guaranteeing money to this guy because they think he has potential, or guys on the come up who can provide a good backup role in case injury occurs. But aside from that, James Bradbury is an Eagle now, so we have our another outside corner to finally pair with Big Play Slay, somebody that's a little more competent in that position, somebody that's a little more of a better fit in this type of defensive scheme, to where I think it was said that Bradbury is a better zone than man corner, or it's the other way around, and that's part of the reason why he didn't work very well for the New York Football Giants. Aside from him being the number one corner for them, I think next to what's his name? What is it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot. I know you're talking.
I want to say Adoree Jackson, but I think that's wrong.
No, on the opposite side.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. It was.
I had a brain fart for a minute because teams that are irrelevant to me, I just don't care to think about. Sorry. They are in our division. They are in our division, but we got to keep it real sometimes. But no. I mean, and I'll say this quick in terms of the Giants. Yeah, they got their big target in Kayvon Thibodeau. They made a massive head coaching change. They made a massive defensive coordinator change. So that combination between Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale is pretty intriguing, if I'm being honest. But of course, that can only work if Daboll gets comfortable in that role. Wink Martindale has been in the league for how many years now as a prideful defensive coordinator, and just coming over from the Baltimore Ravens, who again that we talked about, try to snag as many defensive players as they possibly can, and they almost got away with it, but we snagged Jordan Davis at the end of it all. But yeah, no, I mean, again, as we know, a lot of times it's a quarterback-driven league, and, well, that's still their primary problem right now as far as I'm concerned. They're only going to go as far as their quarterback takes them, because it's not always the case that you're going to win more times than not in spite of your quarterback. You want to win the game because of your quarterback, since he is the overall leader of that football team. And right now, the Giants just don't have that. So, like I said, to segue into another position here and bringing up the Ravens and bringing up Wink Martindale and all that, and we watched them grab Kyle Hamilton, and how many more defensive players do they need, right? And then on top of that, in the free agency market, the Eagles are trying to go after a safety, and they were this close to getting Marcus Williams, who would have been an awesome fit, with the departure of Rodney McLeod, and then I think it would have been less of a necessity to keep a guy in Anthony Harris unless you're bringing him back as a placeholder because he already knows Jonathan Gannon's defense so well. So despite that fact, unfortunately, it didn't work for us. As we have heard, we had a similar deal on the table for him, like the Baltimore Ravens did. And, well, he just decided to go to the Ravens instead. But at the same time, I do still think we debunked the idea that players just don't want to play for the Eagles. Not all of them do, but a good amount still do at the same time. If Hassan Reddick is coming here and we're able to get A.J. Brown and we're able to get these better names. So I think we can put that to bed for the time being. But nonetheless, we get back into this safety spot. We strike out on Marcus Williams. We supposedly strike out on Tyrann Mathieu, who, after going back through the contracts, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I still think we could have paid Tyrann Mathieu because he only got 3 years, just under $29 million from the Saints, and he turned out to be an annual average of about $9.3 million. So if the Eagles were willing to pay about $70 million to Marcus Williams, I think they also could have paid Tyrann Mathieu. So let's get that out of the way first. But even still, okay, Anthony Harris is still here. And then we lose Rodney McLeod, and they end up replacing him with Jaquiski Tartt. And, I've thought, okay, well, he's a little bit of a notable name. Again, not one of the big ones in the league, and he only got about $1.1 million. And we got some promise in Marcus Epps coming into year 3. Another one that's familiar with this Jonathan Gannon style of defense, between him and Anthony Harris. Kayvon Wallace hasn't become the player that we were hoping he would for the draft value that he was. And, being known as one of those top tier captains over at Clemson. And, speaking of Clemson, I was an advocate for wanting Andrew Booth out of the draft. I thought he would have been a great pickup, but even still, that didn't happen. So I don't know. I mean, the safety spot still kind of leaves a lot to be desired to me. So because of that, I think it's only fair as of right now we talk a little bit of the Jesse Bates discussion here. We already know what's going on over there in Cincinnati. He's not in a position to play on the franchise tag, and he might even hold out. And for me to hear that he could ask around, like, what was it, $19 million, when the most a safety's making right now in the league is $17.3 million, and that's Jamal Adams for Seattle. I don't know. And I get it. Jesse Bates was great for Cincinnati. I think he was a Pro Bowl caliber player. I think he was second team All Pro. But even still, I don't know how you justify like $19 million for him, unless you're in a position to where you're desperate enough to upgrade at that position. But I don't know. I see Marcus Williams getting $14 million. I see Jamal Adams, getting $17 million. I don't know. I think the possibility of us getting Jesse Bates, I think it is possible. I think there is a chance. I mean, as far as other people are concerned in the media, CBS thinks that we're the top destination for him if Cincinnati decides to go down that route. I don't exactly know what a good number would be for him, but when I tried to justify it, me personally, I thought that a good tandem going forward, when it's all said and done, I would like personally a tandem between him and Tartt, because Tartt has better versatility than Anthony Harris does. You can move Jaquiski to the strong safety position. That way you can keep Jesse at free safety. And really, when part of the transaction of trading a player, they're not going to want to go to a team if especially in Jesse's case, he's not going to want to go to a team where he's not the de facto number one, as in the leader of that room. And, from him, based on a talent's perspective, I think, it's easy on paper to say, well, not even on paper, but he would clearly be the best safety in the room for the Eagles. So I think that's why it makes more sense than it doesn't. But, right now with the team only having $3 million in cap space, there's going to have to be a lot of restructuring going on to try and fit him under the cap. Especially if you try and create dummy years and prorate it over an X amount of time, kind of like they did with AJ Brown. So I don't know. I think there's a possibility for it, but again, the money aspect I think is going to be the most difficult to try and work around, because he would be a great fit.
Or Jesse Bates is going to wait out long enough to where the Bengals just are going to want to do something with him, And I feel like with Jesse Bates, maybe, I'm not saying the price is going to go down significantly, but maybe later on in the future, maybe he's just going to have to do something so he could play. And, I don't know. I mean, I think the Eagles have been trying to upgrade his position for a while. Like you talked about Tyrann Mathieu and obviously being close to that number for Marcus Williams and obviously, not hitting that number. Getting Tart was good just for depth purposes. And look, I don't think Marcus Epps is going to be the starter for long, but, I think if you're going to go into next year, okay, just say you pretty much, if you don't trade for Jesse Bates, you leave it alone. He just say he holds out for the year. If you really want to go out next year, and if you want to, the cap spaces should be pretty good stability next year. If they want to put money into one position next year, it could be safety. If they want to put a lot of money into that position and say, let's go get our guy. If you want to go get a Derwin James, which is going to be probably highly unlikely, but if the Chargers are going to let him go, you could trade for Eddie Jackson. I mean, there's a lot out there that you could ponder. And this is involving our draft picks. If you have to trade, this is involving what you have. And that's the only thing that stops me. I did a Jesse Bates video like a couple of days ago, and I pretty much was like, well, all right, it'd be nice to trade for a player like this, but what do they want for him? If they want a first, like the Eagles can't give up any first round picks right now because these picks are not safe, to say that they're ours, to say that we don't need to, trade. We don't need to move up in the draft for a quarterback next year, depending on what Jalen Hurts does this year. So I feel like there are options going into next off season and free agency, but I could see them. Craig James just got released. Why? Don't know. Could be just because the corner room is very crowded right now, and there's probably a lot more talent in front of him, or they're trying to make room to maybe do something. I don't know. I mean, Howie Roseman, he's always got something up his sleeve. So I feel like if they don't. If they don't make if they don't make a move for a safety right now or by the trade deadline week 9, then I can say next year their main free agency target's going to be a safety next year.
Right. I think that's the most likely case for me when they release Craig James and if I remember. I think he had more value on special teams than he did defensively. Now, although he was a part of that, that goal line stand play in 19 against the Packers, in which it was the Super Bowl-esque type of play when it was the infamous Seattle throwing it on the 1 yard line instead of running it instead of running it with that's another name that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, having another brain fart, beast mode. Instead of running with beast mode, they pass it, and it was kind of the same play. Pass gets tipped in the air, Nigel Bradham intercepts, game over. But besides that, I mean, you look at Craig, you look at where Craig was in the depth chart, and to this point, it just didn't seem that he had as good of a chance as he may have had in previous years. And the team adds Jimmy Moreland. They're expecting something out of Josh Jobe, Mario Goodrich. They're looking for Josiah Scott to maybe take a backup role at the slot behind Avonte Maddox. You also got Zach McPherson wanting to take that next step. So I mean,
Tay Gowan too, and Tay
Gowan, Kerry Vincent Jr. There's just a lot of bodies there that it became a little overwhelming at a certain point in time, and so sometimes that's just what happens. There's cases that a release may sound bad, but this was in the best interest for Craig James at the end of the day to maybe have a chance of getting himself to contribute elsewhere. So I don't think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so either. Like I like the competition they brought in at cornerback. I know we have our starters now. We don't have to find our number 2 anymore because we have Bradbury now. But Jimmy Moreland, I thought, was a big steal off waivers because he has a lot of starting experience outside and inside. So I mean, I love that. I think he's the most experienced backup that we have right now. But Tay Gowan, because really got traded, with the Zach Ertz trade, and really came in for a couple plays here and there, later in the season and stuff. But I want to see much from him. Like I said, said, like Zach McPherson, 4th-round pick out of Texas Tech, and he, one preseason, a couple preseason games, you watch these guys, they start to struggle, and I thought Zach McPherson's tackling was really well. I thought his tackling was A+, and his coverage was a little bit subpar, but it's his rookie year, and I'm not trying to expect to put too much on a lot of these guys' plates. Mario Goodrich, he got paid just like how they paid Jack Stahl last year because they gave him the most money as an undrafted free agent. They gave Mario Goodrich the $216,000, whatever they gave him. So I would try with these cornerbacks, as many bodies as they have. Okay. I would try to at least cross train these guys from safety to corner to safety or whatever. I would try to put more bodies over there to see what they could do, just to see, not to keep everybody at cornerback because there's a lot of bodies there right now. So
yeah,
I would give that a shot.
Especially that I don't necessarily think they can afford even to further cross train a guy like Avonte Maddox again, because he's already as good as he is in the slot. It's like if it's not broken, don't fix it type of situation there. Right. So I mean, just play with the guys a little further down the depth chart, see what you got out of them. We just talked about guys like Kerry Vincent Jr. He's supposed to have some sort of breakout type of campaign in training camp. They gave a little bit of guaranteed money to Mario Goodrich, and a lot of times something like that it adds as an incentive, based on the belief of potential in a certain player. So much like the Jack Stoll situation, they did the same thing for Mario Goodrich. So we'll see. But because we're in kind of a training camp type of conversation, and that we have finally got there, reminiscing from our old episode of Touchdown Talk, and as we get into training camp, with it being around the corner on the 26th, I gotta ask you, man. What are your biggest what are the biggest points of emphasis, or what are your biggest target points that you're looking at in terms of position groups or specific players to watch? Because I mean, we already know what we're kind of looking at with Miles Sanders and him in his contract year. You already talked about the potential in Javon Hargrave maybe getting a early extension. That's a possibility. Tight end too. Is Jack Stoll going to maintain that? So what are the biggest points in training camp that you are ultimately looking forward to?
Well, first, it's the quarterback. I think with Jalen Hurts and obviously his throwing motion and, just seeing how much he's progressed this offseason and the amount of work that he's put into this offseason, seeing the quarterback gurus and Tom House, Quincy Avery, and some of these other guys. And, just being with the receivers and just, how much better his throwing arm is, how accurate he's going to be this year if he's throwing to these receivers on stride, it's reading the defense, his check downs, just see progression in that. Next, I kind of want to go to the running back position a little bit. I want to see if they're going to keep 4 running backs this year, to maybe see if Kennedy Brooks, the undrafted running back from Oklahoma, to see if maybe he can make. And it's another guy and this guy ran a 4.59. I think he had the same 40 time as Devin Singletary. I think Alvin Kamara. I mean, runs through between the tackles very well. He has patience. Reminds me of Le'Veon Bell a lot with his patience and really good vision. And then once he gets that second level, he goes in high gear and becomes very physical, which I really do like. And he played with Jalen Hurts before. So it's just funny. Calcaterra's played with Jalen Hurts. This guy's played with Jalen. Kenny Brooks played with Jalen Hurts. So it's just kind of crazy. And then kind of see like the defensive line and see Milton Williams to see what he does. Going to his second year, showed some flashes last year, especially that Cowboys game against the starters where we, a lot of our starters were resting and they gave him a lot of reps and he was just tearing it up on there. Teron Jackson, another one at defensive end, and see, had some flashes last year. I mean, Davion Taylor, seeing, how much of a step up he's going to have this year coming off injury and, proving it, that he's got a chip on his shoulder and seeing if he, contributes to this linebacker core. And the cornerback room is it's already set, but, I want to see what we have behind, maybe going into next year, I'm not saying that you're going to put everything on, somebody, you're going to put a lot on somebody's plate this year with these backups, but with Tay Gowan and Zach McPherson and, Mario Goodrich, Josh Jobe, some of these, Kerry Evans Jr., Matt McCain, some of these other guys that you have, and I want to cross-train some of these guys as well, but I want to see what we have backup-wise. God forbid somebody gets hurt, someone has to get into a game, and they'll step up. So I kind of want to see those guys and, Marcus Epps and see, I want to see how much, if he gets any playing time. I know he'll be in the scrimmages and stuff like that and preseason, hopefully. And an offensive line wise, like, Cam Jurgens, just see his progression and see, Kelsey being by his side and being that mentor towards him. And, Jeff Stoutland, kind of, building him to be a monster for the future and years to come, because this is going to be our center for the future. So I'm excited for that. And on top of everything else, my two guys I'm really excited for is Britton Covey and Devon Allen. Two guys that, Devon Allen just had his hurdling championship the other day and got disqualified over 1/1000th of a second short, literally of jumping the gun on the beginning stage of the track. So
meanwhile, everybody's quick to say, "Oh, that's because he's a Philadelphia Eagle," right?
Yeah, no,
that's all I heard.
I have a lot of faith in one of those guys to make the roster. Like and these guys are blazing fast. Like Devon Allen is blazing fast. I mean, he's 27 years old now. I think he's 27, so obviously he hasn't played football since 2016, but I want to see if you have one of those guys that not only look, the first step I'm going to say for one of these guys is let's see if they can play special teams. This is another reason why Rager's just not going to make it because of the special teams. And they brought in guys because they signed Devon Allen to a 3-year deal like that. Like they totally were like, kind of made it almost set in stone. Like he's going to be one of the special teamers for this team, whether it's kick return or punt return. But Britton Covey shows toughness. He's a little bit on the smaller side at 5'7", 175 pounds. So he's one hit away from getting, injured, but he's got a lot of toughness to him. He finds every little crevice, every little mouse hole on the field, any bit of little space he could get, he devours and just takes over. And to be honest with you, like I would like to find a receiver like this that plays special teams first, and maybe you can make him as a gadget receiver for your offense for speed, like for end arounds, jet sweeps, go routes, slants. I mean, stuff like that, because Britton Covey has done a lot of that, which would be really cool, like to kind of trick defenses a little bit. So you can use multiple wide receivers, a guy's getting a lot of attention. So, those two guys I'm actually really, really excited for. And I think another one I'm pretty excited for too is Kyron Johnson, because I know you talked about him being a linebacker, but I feel like they're not going to put him in that position. I feel like they're going to make him as a backup depth defensive end, see what he brings to the table. He ran like a 4.38. He was really quick. Blazing fast. He's just a little undersized, but he's got that pushback mentality. You saw what he did to Trevor Penning at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. It was these guys are towering over him, and he's relentless, and I love that. He's got a quick first step. If he could turn that with good technique, like if you don't have the size but good technique, you could pretty much, you could beat a lot of people in the league. So I want to see what Kyron Johnson brings to the table. And you've mentioned Calcaterra, and I feel like let's see if he is better than Jack Stoll. Because JJ's not going to make the roster regardless. You've already kind of said that. It makes sense. It really does make sense. You said that Pascal was kind of the replacement for J-Jaw, and I feel like. Which that a lot of these guys are going to be better. Like even if they bring in a Weedfall or a Josh Hammond or somebody like that, like even if they're not going to start or be on practice squad, whatever the case may be, like they're probably better than these guys are probably better than him. And I feel like they just put him there just to put him there. If they were to put him there, they should have just did it last year if that was the case. You know what I mean? But I think I have more of optimism when it comes to J-Jaw being on practice squad or just flat out being released or cut from this team. And with Jalen Reagor, obviously, I feel like he's a big release candidate. I don't think I think they've tried to trade him, and they wanted more than they wanted, and teams didn't want to give up that much for him. And I feel like he's going to be a big release candidate this year. So, those are some of the players I'm really excited for. And obviously, I kind of want to see obviously AJ Brown on the field and just see these wide receiver drills, like especially when Miami Dolphins come into town, and a really good matchup for two quarterbacks that obviously have a lot of familiarity with each other. So it should be fun to watch.
Right. there, there you go, Castro. There's 19 in the chat.
Funny.
No,
Dude.
but shout out to Joe Castro and
Yeah.
Philly the podcast, man, doing his work over there. And you know, I've already had him on the series of Touchdown Talk, and if I can remember off the top of my head, I think it was episode 15 where he and Shaky B, you know, his good friend that has been a part of, you know, of his platform, you know, they have done work together for quite a long time, and it was a pleasure in having the two of them on. And you know, if this rewind segment continues to be a success, and you know, maybe down the road stuff like that could happen again. You know, as for anybody in the community, I always leave my door open, and you know, it's about the relationships that you make, man. So yeah.
And the one thing I want to ask Joe Castro is, what is the big secret? We got to know what's going on right now with your future, and we want to celebrate with you. So hopefully we hear some news soon, because I've been seeing like these little bits and clues, like I'm watching a teaser trailer, and I want to see more to that trailer. So hopefully we hear more news. Hopefully.
And a new studio in the works, and he's got some you know, memorabilia with sports and everything. I seen that Ravens helmet and whatnot. Yeah, he's got something good building over there, man. Yeah, good job, Castro. But let me see if I can do as you know, as quick of a breakdown as possible with this with these position groups. And you know, like you said, as in terms of wide receiver, I don't know if there's a whole a lot of context that we can bring into this, other than, you know, you bring up guys like Devin Allen and Britton Covey, and you know, and hoping that they provide some kind of spark to the special teams unit too, which in my opinion, special teams was the most pathetic phase of this team last year, and for quite a while now, that they just can't seem to find any kind of you know, extra gear or explosiveness that can blow the game open. Where, I mean, yeah, we've seen a couple from you know, we've seen a couple from Jalen Reagor, for what it's worth, outside of his fumbles, and he's got some return touchdowns in there and everything. And I think Boston Scott from time to time has had a couple of good returns, but you know, aside from that, as much as we love Greg Ward, he was deemed the name fair catch for a reason, and you know, he didn't, you know, just no risks being taken or nothing, and you know, that kind of approach, to special teams obviously is not sustainable. So you kind of want to do something there to maybe add an extra element to this team, and you know, and catch your opponent off guard. I don't know, something that simple, right? So we are hoping guys like Devin Allen and Britton Covey can bring, you know, that spark that we're looking for. And if you talk about it in that sense, well, obviously, when you're constructing a 53-man roster, you're not going to look at those two guys and be like, okay, well, we're just going to relegate them to special teams, because that's not exactly how it works. They need to provide some sort of contribution offensively, so to where, okay, well, if we're enamored by their special teams capability, you have to know if they can run a route, good enough, if they are in sync with their quarterback, you know, can they handle a small workload, you know, in certain packages, if you put them out there, like you said with Britton Covey, that he provides a lot of what we were hoping Jalen Reagor could be capable of doing, and it just didn't happen. And you know, we seen them try to use Kenny Gainwell in that sense a little bit last year, and you know, the screen game as a whole was just completely unsuccessful. You know, so aside from special teams, maybe that's where a guy like Devin Allen and Britton Covey can come in and, you know, and give us that kind of spark. And then going across the rest of the receiver landscape, I mean, you got guys like John Hightower, Deion Kane. You mentioned Josh Hammond. You know, Greg Ward. I don't know if he's just going to have a role in this team anymore. You know, he's very reliable. Let's not get it twisted. Greg Ward is very reliable. He has proven. He has proven to No, no, it's not. It's not in terms of that. I apologize, Joe. You know, how can I describe it? I don't like to no, I'm not I'm not gonna go into that realm because I don't want to hurt any feelings or nothing. But you know, the way I like to do streams sometimes is you know, sometimes I don't necessarily pay attention as much to questions as I should, because you know, I like to keep a focus at hand as to you know what I'm talking about, you know, between me and my guests and everything. It's no slight on the audience at all. I think it'd be a little bit different if I was by myself, but you know, I think you guys get where I'm going, and I think you guys get where I'm going in terms of that. There's no disrespect whatsoever, and it has nothing to do with you being a content creator or not. Don't take it that way. But like you said in this last comment that I was going to get to when we talk about the running back core, I think you meant to say Jordan Howard here instead of Ryan Howard when you talked about Devin Allen and Britton Covey as special teams players. And I'll get to that in a minute about Jordan Howard. But to finish up the receiver spot, I don't know, you know, it comes to guys like Rager and Greg Ward, and then, you know, you got your guys in the fourth string like Josh Hammond and Carrick Wheatfall. At the end of the day, I think there's going to be some practice squad fillers there, because it seems from a 53-man standpoint that our first and second string is pretty much set as far as I'm concerned. When you look at Quez, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and then you add Zach Pascal into that mix, well, you got 4 receivers right there. Well, you can use maybe 1 or 2 more. So is that a spot for Britton Covey or Devin Allen? Or is that going to be, you know, a spot for maybe John Hightower to make a comeback, or, you know, the OTAs, you know, talk of the town and Deion Kane? I mean, who knows? But, you know, that's how I look at the receiver room. And then quickly to get to the running backs, as Joe was talking about here with Jordan Howard instead of Ryan Howard. Right. This isn't the Phillies. It's we're not. It's not the Phillies. It's the Eagles. But yeah, you know, you get what I'm saying. But I don't know. I still have a minor reservation in terms of bringing Jordan Howard back, because again, it's just another player, a part of the committee that always seems to have a ticky-tack injury that keeps him off the team, and he misses not a substantial amount of games, but he always seems to miss the games where we need him most. And that's what it's pretty much been for Miles Sanders. So I don't know that, you know, with you already having a guy that you're fighting injuries with, and then you bring somebody back on top of that. Now, granted, he would only be making the vet minimum, but what good is paying that cheap if you're still not going to see him on the field to begin with? Aside from the fact that they're trying to elevate Kenny Gainwell's role. So, I mean, in that case, as much as I love Jordan Howard, they're probably better off giving the undrafted rookie a chance and seeing what he can do. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned with that, he's healthier. You know, it's somebody that you can develop in-house, being that, you know, we picked up Jordan Howard as a free agent, and he has worked pretty well for us for the last few years or so. Right. But I mean, no, I mean, like you were saying, you're pretty excited on what Kennedy Brooks can bring. And I think that's probably going to be their better bet going forward, instead of trying to bring Jordan Howard back.
Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah. I mean, look, I feel like Latavius Murray would be like a perfect addition. And if Kenny Brooks doesn't work out, I think Latavius Murray would be. I think that would, and I didn't know he was a free agent until like a few days ago. Someone was, Latavius Murray's still out there. I'm like, he's still out there? I thought he was still at Baltimore, but he wasn't. He averaged over 4 yards a carry, he had over 500 yards, at 6 touchdowns. I mean, Jordan Howard would be cheaper probably, but I think Latavius Murray's 30. Someone said he's 32 years old, so he's up there in age, but still very productive. So if you put a 1-year deal on him, then great. But with Jordan Howard, I mean, it's just these damn injuries he gets. This every time he gets injured, he's out for weeks, and it kills us. Like I love him being that finisher, getting those tough yards and tiring out defenses that really open up the pass game a little bit more. This way the pass rush isn't as bad against us. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be an interesting training camp, and the way they're going about it, and there's a lot of excitement, and competition is definitely key. The better players we have, the better competition there's going to be, and the better these players are going to get by the start of the season. So, and then when this final 53 wraps up, and the amount of other, yeah, we talk about, we forgot even the tight end spot. We're talking about Tyree Jackson as well. I think he's going to be on PUP. I don't think he's going to play at all. I think he'll be on PUP, and then I think he'll go on IR for 8 to 9 weeks, and then maybe we'll get some chance. I would just put him on the shelf and keep him, because I'm not saying there's something there, but it's only his second year playing tight end, and I just want to see more from him. He's more of a project for me, but you never know what you have down the road with certain guys. So
right.
Cool.
Yeah, no. What's up, Brandon Peck? And, seeing your recent subscriber earlier, appreciate you, buddy. But yes, Joey and I did talk about the potential chance of getting Jesse Bates. And, I did put it on the table. I thought that it could potentially happen. And, a lot of other people seem to think so, with us being the top trade destination right now. But, it ultimately comes down to, what Cincinnati is willing to do. And, with their, with the, with the best safety on their roster right now, with being as disgruntled as he is. And, of course, I don't think he's going to want to go to a situation that doesn't benefit him any less than what he already has with the Bengals, is the fact that they were just playing in the Super Bowl. So he's going to want to still stay on a competitive team, for one, and two, that competitive team, he has to be, like I said, he has to be the de facto guy. He has to be that number one, that leader of the group, and he has that potential to do it with Philly. But if there's talk going out there that he's going to want to be in the ballpark of, 18 to 19 million dollars a year, meanwhile, we only tried to give Marcus Williams around 14 to 15, and he chose the Ravens instead. And then you got Jamal Adams making 17 million. I don't know if there's that much pull or strength in the market to justify that kind of a contract, especially if it's whether it's 4 years or 5 years. But at the end of the day, if the Eagles and Howie Roseman feel that this is completely necessary to do, and if they feel that our safety depth is not good enough right now, then they're going to pull the trigger. But I think they want to see what they got in training camp first, with the veterans that they brought in, and see the kind of versatility that the combination of having Anthony Harris and Jaquiski Tartt, who are both strong safeties in their nature, you want to see what kind of versatility they have with each other if they end up being on the field at the same time. So yeah, that's my thing. But and I will touch on tight end too. I will come out on a limb and say I ultimately think Greg Calcaterra has the best chance of being the number 2. Now, again, Jack Stoll being the undrafted rookie out of Nebraska that he was, and showing the amount of promise that he did last year, and being a reputable blocking tight end, to where, of course, Dallas Goedert is our top target in that position group, and he got the bag, so deservingly so, but at the same time, we understand that most NFL teams keep as many as 3 tight ends on their roster. And when you look at the rest of the landscape and say, well, Tyree Jackson's going to start on the PUP list. Noah Togiai has been primarily a camp body on the practice squad. Although I tried to justify a means of a saving grace for Umbrella Man, I'm not gonna touch on that again. I'm not gonna do it, because every time I seem to try and repeat the saving grace, I feel that Arcega-Whiteside could keep himself on this roster. I dig myself a deeper hole, and the gravestone is going to hit the dirt soon. So I'm not going to do it again. I already made a video on it. You can comment on that if you want, if so being the case. But to touch on it quick, the only way Arcega-Whiteside would work is if they approached him the same way that the Eagles approached Trey Burton in 2017.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the only way that they can utilize him in a similar sense. But like
that's a long shot. That's a long shot, though.
It is to this point. I know. But like I said, I'm not gonna dive any deeper. I'm not gonna dive any deeper on it this time, because I think it's a dead horse that I'm beating right now, since it's an unpopular opinion, and I'll just leave it at that.
You
but
sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure you don't have JJ Arcega-Whiteside's jersey behind you somewhere? There's something going on.
I saw it coming. No, I do not.
Well, dude, at least the Maverick stuff ain't connected to the Jalen Hurts jersey anymore, so I'm happy for you.
Right.
Very happy for you.
Right.
Yeah. Not personal, so it's good.
No, and that Slay jersey was the newest addition to my collection too. It ended up being a birthday present. So
nice.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But talking about the tight end spot, as we know, most teams only keep 3, and I think it's going to be a battle between Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra for the number 2 spot. And if Calcaterra ends up not being the number 2, worst case scenario, he'll be the number 3, because as we know, you can always stash somebody on the practice squad, and Richard Rodgers still, he still so happens to end up, he still so happens to be here.
How?
Not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure why, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else I personally really need to touch on, aside from just the overall anticipation of just getting to training camp, as July 26th can't come fast enough. But to close this thing out, since we seem to be approaching 2 hours, much like episode 13 did. But but what happened last time? No,
I don't know.
I mean, the audience is still here, so we seem to be doing something right, because it happened the same way as last time. But to close this one out, We have talked about the expectation of this football team prematurely, to a fault, approaching training camp and everything. And on paper, the newly acquired talent and how it aids to, the level of potential that this team has right now. And, and I'll start with my prediction first. From the very get-go, I have said that this team's floor should be no less than 11 games. On paper, that's how they look to me. At worst, they should be an 11-win team. Best case scenario, they can win as many as 13. I'm not gonna go there just yet. I still need to see what the 53-man roster looks like, and and so on and so forth. Injuries could also derail that. Incompetent coaches could derail that. We don't know to this point, since Jonathan Gannon has been the biggest punching bag as far as part of that coaching staff right now, and he has. I don't even know, when you try to divide the amount of pressure on this team, that it always seems to either be Jalen Hurts or Jonathan Gannon, and those are the top 2 right now. But I mean, defense wins championships isn't said for no reason. And for us to be as lopsided as we were last year, you can say, oh, well, we were 12th in scoring, but we were the 18th scoring defense, and that's not all that bad. We were just below average, and yada yada. Well, okay. Well, if you dive in a little deeper, it's going to get a lot worse than that. I mean, the team wasn't great in yardage. They weren't great. Right. Again, they weren't great in rushing touchdowns. They weren't great. They weren't great in forcing turnovers at all. I think they were second to last in forced fumbles or interceptions along that category, and I think they were 26th overall in turnovers. When you got a guy sign Jonathan Gannon that was, preaching about the hits principle and we're going to be aggressive and do this and do that. And well, we kind of know what the result of was last year. We don't need to bring up sensitive topics here, but understanding where the team is right now, the upgrades that they have made that we really didn't expect them to a certain degree. Like I said, I feel this team at its core, its floor is 11 wins. I think they're going to hover between 11 and 13, and the division winner is going to be separated by one game. I think Philly and Dallas are going to be ultimately at the top. Washington is going to be a sleeper to me coming in, trying to fight between third and second with Dallas because, let's not get it twisted there. As much as we hate Carson to this point because we know him as a quarterback so well and want to bash him so bad for losing the potential, a potential playoff spot last year and wet in the bed against the Jaguars. He's got a good set of weaponry over there at Washington. Terry McLaurin just got the bag. They got Jahan Dotson over there. Dynamic Brown has a lot of potential for them. Antonio Gibson in the running game. Logan Thomas is coming back. They've addressed their offensive line a little bit, but there's still questions there. But overall, he's got a pretty good core of weapons to work with, so it's not much of a downgrade, minus not having Jonathan Taylor anymore, than a lot of people are making it out to be. So, but overall, yeah, I think the Eagles as a whole right now on paper are an 11-13 win team, and their ceiling for me is the NFC Championship game. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm not going to be afraid to stick to my conviction. But no. Yeah, I'm not going to be as delusional at the same time and say Super Bowl or bust, or this team, they're Super Bowl contenders. No, I want them to show me and I want them to show me improvement. I want to see consistency in what their identity is on the field offensively and defensively to what they can truly do. And if all of that goes well, they are more than good enough to show us an NFC Championship game appearance.
Yeah, and it's close to what I've got. I mean, I have them like 10 to 12 wins, 13. I think they win 13 games this year if everything goes perfect. But in a perfect world, there's always drama somewhere, whether it's injuries or it's something. So, I mean, look at this offense.
How many times have I knocked on wood this stream already when talking about injuries? Yeah.
That's why I don't like doing schedule predictions. Like, those are the worst. Mm-hmm. Like, I've said it on my videos. Like, I hate doing schedule predictions. Like, in a perfect world, like, the schedule goes the way it is, and that's it. Like, yeah, I can see them winning 6-7 games before the bye, whatever it is before the bye week. I can see it happening. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be tough. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like our schedule caters to us very well, and if we're a more talked about and better team, and obviously we've been, we're not used to it because we're never really talked about every single year. But this year, like every time I put on NFL Network, they're always talking about the Eagles and how how much they did well in the draft, most improved teams, and the Eagles being probably the number one team being that much improved. But now it's down to the coaching staff. Now it's down to what these players could, what these coaches could produce and put as a product on the field and run away with it. And this is why the coaching staff, this is why Howie Roseman and the coaching staff, they didn't fire any coaches this year, at least some of the positional coaches or whatever. They're keeping everything the same. They're giving this one more shot. I think after this year, you could lose a coordinator or two. You could lose some positional coaches if it's some positions, getting these guys, how are these guys getting prepared every single week for games? You know what I mean? Like, last year, I was really excited. Young, very young offense, very young, and inexperienced in some ways. Not much time for some of these players. Some of these special weapons that we had last year, but we knew that there was going to be bruises down the road. We knew that there was a lot of mistakes were going to be made, and it was going to happen. So, just go into this training camp and have the best competition possible, best scrimmages, even though, I'm not a big fan on scrimmages because of, it's not realistic for the quarterback, which, I don't know why Nick values it so much when it's not live tackling and these quarterbacks can make every single throw every single time. But going into, the season this year, I feel like I'm not looking for a 10% I'm not looking for something with Jalen Hurts that he has to be 10% better. I think he's got to be like 20 to 25% better this year. Like I got to see a major jump on what he's done this offseason and the work he's put in with these receivers. And, like I said, it's not just about the offense. Defensively, we need to see if we have the right coach before anything. I know we have a lot of the right players, you know what I mean? So for some players, I'm going to be, I'm going to be a critic. And then for some of them, I'm not, because of what scheme they're in and how Gannon's using these guys, and we'll find out. It's going to be it's very exciting where this team could go. I have them as of right now winning the East and at least winning a playoff game would give Jalen Hurts a good contract, a payday in my opinion, and then some. Could go as far as if you could say the NFC Championship game. I never said NFC Championship game, but hey, if they could do it, then great. I think they win the East. They win a very weak East. Well, not weak, but somewhat of where they're atop of what they have in competition right now, and win a playoff game this year. That puts us in the right direction for you don't have to give up your picks next year, and you could be Super Bowl contenders next year. No joke.
Right? Yeah. No, it could potentially happen. And I know you just said you had it at a minimum of 10 games. You really think a record of 10-7 could make a division winner in the NFC East?
It might, maybe. It really the other schedules, like even with Dallas' schedule, it's not as bad as it looks. And I understand with Dallas, maybe they take a step back when you see with Dallas and with Ezekiel Elliott is going to be that player he used to be, making $18 million this year, and CD becoming the number one, and Jalen Tolbert, is he going to have a big role in that offense? Is he going to be productive? And no Amari Cooper, and Gallup's got paid a lot of money coming off of an ACL, 2 injuries. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of moving pieces. And Dan Quinn is the defensive coordinator over there. I think is great. I don't think he's going to be the defensive coordinator after next year. I think he's going to be a head coach after next year. He might be a head coach again because he did a really good job with Dallas last year, and he probably will. I think the defense will be I think Dallas defense will play really well. But yeah, it might be over 10 wins. Like I don't think as less of I think that the lowest amount of games they can win is 10, but that's way too low for me to say as a standpoint of what they could do. I think they can go a lot more. I've said 13 wins, like they can get it done, but it's all got to go game to game right. And these second half adjustments were a huge problem last year. Like we always, on both sides of the ball, we made second half, adjustments. And I feel like every time like Gannon made second half adjustments, we played okay. But then the next game, you're back to square one. You always have to make you always make adjustments every single game theoretically, but major adjustments of the same problem over and over and over again every single game. That's where I'm like, is this guy like going to get it going or what? Like what's going on? Because he used to blame himself. Like I don't have the right players for the scheme that I'm running, but now you really got no excuse going into this season of how he was going to do. So
it's still crazy to think that they have done more for Jonathan Gannon in less than 2 years than they really have done for Jim Schwartz in almost 6. I like 5-6 years. I still find that crazy to me, man. I don't I don't know what else to say about it. Just the amount of weapons that they gave Gannon to hopefully do what he preaches he's going to do with his hybrid scheme and seeing 4-3-3-4 5-2 fronts and and everything else on top of that and understanding that bringing a guy like Nakobe Dean who is a really good blitzer and we're going to be more aggressive on that front, and it's man I tell you what, it's a lot to think about. So but yeah, I mean, and I look at it and say, well, if our over and under wins wise last year was 6.5, I don't think it's a stretch to put it at 9.5 this year. If you're talking about your floor being 10 wins and that's not exactly your ideal floor at the same time, like that's probably worst case scenario, then 9.5 doesn't seem like a stretch to say that that's completely negative based on everything that the Eagles have done. Well, no, I mean, as of right now, we have no idea what the Eagles are going to do. Like I said, training camp hasn't even happened yet. So but yeah, overall, we have a lot. We have a lot to be excited about. There's
Yes.
plenty of anticipation. I can't remember a time in which I was this excited. Maybe to a degree, year two of Wentz with the upgrades they have done. Going back to the 2017 season and him being under John DeFilippo and what he was able to do in terms of improving him as a quarterback to an extent, and going forward with that. But man, well, it seems we have reached another 2 hours, man, and I didn't think it was going to happen. I don't know if we anticipated it on happening, but if the entertainment's there, it's there. So, I know that you got a couple of things that you wanted to get done ahead of time. So we won't really carry this on any further. Boys for Life popping in. What is up, my
boys?
Man? Speaking of that, since there's Giants fans in here and there's Cowboys fans in here who are also content creators, I will go ahead and say that once Touchdown Talk reaches Chapter 2, which would be episode 20, I'm planning on bringing content creators from other divisions and
nice.
Especially the NFC East. So I will branch out in that regard and have rivals on there and stuff like that. And I have the idea of looking for a Titans one to talk about them, about AJ Brown, and get a little bit of that creativity in there. So little sneak peek as to my future plans for Touchdown Talk. But I tell you what, the first concept of Rewind was a pretty damn good success here. If if we do say so ourselves, but Joey and I have already this has already been the third stream that Joey and I have done, and
right.
Over time it has gotten a lot more natural because we just bounce off of each other.
We click.
Yeah, I mean the conversations do get better. I don't feel that I blabber for 15 minutes and then allow Joey to answer my question that I tried to get out a half hour ago and stuff like that. I'm a very tough critic when it comes to myself, and sometimes you got to do that homework. So I wanted to thank everybody that came out for the Touchdown Talk Rewind. Dating back to episode 13 in the series, where Joey Shakes came on prior to the NFL draft, and it did not disappoint. And all we have to hope for is that disappointment does not show up in the course of the regular season, and we just build on the excitement that we were given watching the draft. So, Joey, think we kicked ass again. Big thank you for coming on, to the channel once more. And, of course, everybody do your due diligence and, give him as much support as you give anybody else. The Eagles content creator community is a big family here. And, we do tend to take that seriously. So, man, any other closing thoughts you got before we put a bow on this one?
I'm just getting ready for next week. I'm going to be up all morning on first day of training camp and literally going to be watching and hopefully seeing a lot of, what's going to happen with some of these players and who's going to be the rising star of the undrafted free agents and just who's going to stand out. I just want to see, Jalen Hurts obviously is my focal point of what I want to see first. And it's going to be a lot of fun because the season's going to be here before we know it. And we're going to be ready to go. So I'm pumped.
It keeps building, man. I think there was still a good level of excitement in 21, but I think the Eagles ramped it up all the way to 11, man. And hopefully we keep the bad vibes away, much like people trying to talk about Jalen Hurts, having 3 interceptions and 4 sacks and so on and so forth, and all
that will happen again. When he throws a pick at training camp, everyone's gonna want to bench him. So trust me, it's gonna happen.
So everybody prepare for the stuff that gets blown out of proportion, and just be sure to take your chill pills, and we'll be right there with you every step of the way. on our separate channels, at least, unless another collaboration happens. We don't know. But again, thank you to everybody that has come out for Touchdown Talk Rewind, with Joey Shakes being the guest on this one, and that'll put a bow on this presentation with myself, Lindy Endzone, and I will catch you guys in the next installment. I will have a couple of videos for y'all. You already know how I do, but thank you again. Flag Eagles Fly, bleed green. You already know the deal, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Ciao, guys.
Have a good night, and I will see you next time.